ladies and gentlemen. Once again, good morning to you all. We are getting ready to start. As you can see, power has been restored, and we are confident that it will stay this time, at least to see us through the entire program. The minister will be joining us very, very shortly, and as soon as I make the announcement that she's coming into this room, I will ask that we stand to welcome her, and we will remain standing until she gets to her seat at the high table. Then we'll sing the national anthem together. Please take note, all three stanzas of the national anthem, we'll be required to sing them. We'll have a word of prayer after that, and then we will take our seats and commence the program. So we're standing by for the entrance. She's already here, so we're just waiting for her to be ushered into this room to join us, and that will be happening very, very shortly. So please stand by anytime now. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we all rise as we welcome our guest of honor, the Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security. As the minister is settling at her seat, Godfrey Chanda will lead us in the national anthem, and it will be followed by a word of prayer to be offered by Joseph Chinyama.
May you just join me in singing the national anthem. Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for their right. We've won freedom's fight. Oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own mother, blessed by God's good hand. Let's our people join us one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace neath Zambia's sky. Like our noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God. Bless our great nation, Zambia, Zambia. Free men we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one, strong and free.
Shall we bow and pray? Our dear, kind, loving Heavenly Father, we bow before Thee this wonderful morning. Heavenly Father, as the ministry launches these documents that have been prepared for the good leadership of Your people, we pray that You may increase the wisdom of our leaders, including one of them who is our Honorable Minister standing with us today, the Permanent Secretary, and all the leadership that has been provided in the ministry. Heavenly Father, we pray that Your protection may dwell on this place as these deliberations, as the launch takes place. We pray that Your wisdom may shine, that Your light may continue leading into the leadership and also the way things are done, bringing them before Your holy altar. What more would we ask of Thee? Heavenly Father, come and be the one that supersedes in everything that happens in this place. It is in the mighty name of Jesus Christ that we ask and pray. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our guest of honor, the Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Joyce Nondesi Mokoko, MP, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Chanda Kazia, the ILO Country Director, Mr. George Okuto, ZFE, Zambia Federation of Employers President, Mr. Harrington Chibanda, and Ms. Grace Mui. ZCTU President, Mr. Newman Wubala. FFTU's representative, Mr. Chingati Masiska. Directors, senior government officials from the Ministry of Labor and other government ministries and departments here present. Partners and stakeholders, distinguished invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, and of course our online audience. We want to welcome all of you, those of you that are joining us from your homes or your offices or wherever you may be on the three platforms that have been made available today, Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome to all of you. But first of all, allow me to give an apology for the slight delay in the start of our program. It was due to a power failure, and as a result of that, the online platforms went off for some time. So we apologize for that. But welcome back. And before I move from the online audience, may I just give one small tip. When you join this program online, please remember to mute your microphone so that there is no interference for the others that are on the same platform with you. And so we are here today to launch the National Productivity National Productivity Policy. And as well, there are a few other documents that will also be launched today on this program. That's the Ministry Service Charter and the Zambia Productivity Report. And always, when we get to events like this, where documents are being launched, you cannot ignore the fact that for the printed document, for the final document to be ready for launch and distribution and circulation, you have to give credit to those that spent hours, sometimes ungodly hours, so to speak, bashing their brains and differing, losing their tempers, but reconciling and just moving together for the sake of the production of these documents. So I think we are in order to just give a round of applause to all those that labored in the Ministry of Labor to come up with these documents today. We thank you for your efforts. They were not in vain. And we will continue to rely on you, of course, under the guidance of the Honorable Minister, the Permanent Secretary, and all the leadership at the ministry and in government at large. My name is Paddy Ampande Mirambo Munajizela Tugali Mabenga Mugando, and I'm honored to be Master of Ceremonies for this event. I must say that, Minister, we have missed you, especially in occasions like these. Because of COVID, a lot of things were called off and, or if they were held on a smaller scale. But it's good to be able to see you again, and of course everybody else that we look forward to meeting. And of course we continue to advise and ask that we observe all the COVID-19 guidelines. Even as we gather today in this place, you will notice that the chairs have been spaced, I think, in a way that we are not used to. But this is a new normal. So please, even if you're seated next to your best friend, keep the position of the chair. Don't move it closer, because I think they were measured just to maintain social distancing. And I was telling my friend, a colleague of mine, as I was coming here today, I was saying I'm going for the launch of the National Productivity Policy under the Ministry of Labor. He says, yeah, there should be a productivity policy. And he was saying, I hope in there's a minimum productivity level required for people to deserve a minimum wage. You can't have a minimum wage without a guiding minimum productivity level. I don't know if that's in the policy, but perhaps we still can celebrate the launch of this document today. And so to start our program, allow me to invite the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Chanda Kazia, to come aboard to give us the official welcome from his seat at the table. Mr. Kazia, sir.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. The Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Joyce Nondismukoko MP, the Labor Commissioner, the ILO Country Representative Director General, Mr. George Akuto. I think he's watching online. The Zambia Federation of Employers, I presume the President is also watching online. the Vice President for Zambia Congress of Trade Union, representing the workers, Mr. Norman Vuvala, the Director, National Productivity Department in the Ministry of Labor, whose department, Honorable Minister, has been at the helm of ensuring that we come up with the productivity policy. Honorable Minister, you may wish to know that we have had a lack of a nationally accepted policy on productivity, and it has been affected our productivity measurement, our productivity enforcement in terms of legislation. So this has come after a long, tedious process, but we are very happy that it was a question of consultation, so that all the partners and all the parties are able to understand what we need to do. Honorable Minister, today you are launching the National Productivity Policy. We are also launching the implementation plan. And above all, the interesting one for your ministry, Honorable Minister, is the service charter for the ministry, such that our interaction with the general public is able to be streamlined, and we are able to actually measure on productivity based on the service charter, which really entails that we have now standard timelines in which we must react to the issues that are coming from the public, the way we interact with the public, the way we submit our reports. And we are hoping that that should be set as a basis and as a change in the direction as the government moves, leaving no one behind. Honorable Minister, I would also wish to bring to your attention, Honorable Minister, that at the end of the program, you have a special occasion to actually present the registration, the certificate of registration for the first ever union for the special education teachers. Honorable Minister, you may wish to know that this is a great milestone for government in terms of recognizing the fundamental rights at the place of work, where we might actually lead in Africa, maybe the sub-region, to be the first ones to have workers represented in that category. And we are very, very happy, and we thought that this is an occasion which you can actually speak to. So, Honorable Minister, without much ado, I beg to move. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Permanent Secretary. Yeah, there are a lot of things we have to get used to under the new normal. Usually we would give a round of applause when a speaker stands to come to deliver their remarks, and now since you're still seated, even after you finish speaking, we're a bit hesitant. We're not sure whether we should. But I think we should continue with that same practice of giving applause, both to welcome and to thank for their remarks. Well, the National Productivity Policy and Implementation Plan, yes. And the theme of the policy is to have a productive and competitive nation by the year 2030. And indeed, as you said, Mr. Pierce, you know, the many hours, of laboring and consulting, finally here we are. And the implementation plan, obviously, is what would drive us forward to seeing all these things come to fruition for the betterment of our country. And not only our generation, but the generations to come. Those of us with children, it means more than perhaps those that don't have children. We really need to see this nation go forward and develop for the sake of our children and grandchildren and those that will come thereafter. Now, it is time for us to have a deeper understanding of the National Productivity Policy, and also to have a brief look into the Zambia Productivity Report, the years 2012 to 2018, and thereafter an overview of the Service Delivery Charter, which is one of the documents that we are launching today as well. And so I will call upon Mr. Cyprian Mayamba to come and lead with the presentation of the National Productivity Policy Overview and the Zambia Productivity Report 2012 to 2018. And he will be followed by Mr. Moffat Billy, who is the Director, Planning and Research Department, to give the overview of the Service Delivery Charter. So let me call upon the National Productivity Development Department Director, Mr. Cyprian Mayamba. Let's give him a round of applause, shall we?
Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Joyce Inonde Simkoko MP, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Chandakazia. I also want to recognize and appreciate the presence of the Vice President of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, Mr. Vuvala. Labor Commissioner, I want to recognize your presence and also wish to indicate that in this presentation, Honorable Minister, I just wish to briefly outline what the policy is all about. And thanks a lot, Master of Ceremony, for giving me this opportunity. So in terms of our presentation this morning, Honorable Minister, I'll focus my discussion, first of all, on trying to get consensus on what we conceptualize as a ministry, what productivity is, in terms of how do we define productivity and how can we improve it. We also want to look at the rationale as to why productivity is such an important issue that it warranted the Cabinet to put in place a policy to guide the issues of productivity. We'll also look at the purpose of this policy, the guiding principles, the objectives, and then we'll also conclude with the institutional arrangements. I'll also briefly, Honorable Minister and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, also focus briefly on the Zambia Productivity Report, which is the inaugural productivity report. So to start with, in terms of defining what productivity is, I first wish to bring to your attention that whenever we talk about productivity, there are several ways in which productivity can be defined. In fact, it mostly depends on which angle you are looking at productivity. But what we've tried to do in this policy is to try to come up with a common definition or understanding of what productivity is all about. Now, a good starting point is to, first of all, begin with the production process, whether it's a production of tangible goods or services, or whether it is the provision of services, because these processes always include inputs and outputs. And so whenever we've got input and output processes, we have some transformation going on. And one way of defining productivity, which is a quantitative way of defining productivity, is to look at productivity as a relationship between outputs and inputs. And for that reason, we are saying productivity is a ratio of output to input. So we're trying to see how well the input factors, such as labor, such as material, such as equipment, how well are those being utilized to produce outputs. And this is one of the most common definitions of productivity. It's also called the quantitative definition of productivity. In fact, the productivity report that I'm going to allude to later is actually based on this formula. Now, apart from this, we also have other ways of defining productivity, and these we call as the qualitative definitions of productivity. And one of them, we define productivity in this policy as converting resources, which are the inputs, into products and services, and this is done efficiently, effectively, and with optimum utilization of human and physical capital for the benefit of the organization itself, society, and the economy, as well as the environment. But a much better way of putting this is to simply say productivity is a state of mind. And I know, Honorable Minister, you've been very passionate about this, and every time you've addressed the public, you've always mentioned the fact that we need to change our mindsets as Zambians, whether it's workers or it's the employers. And this probably is our favorite definition of productivity, where we're saying that productivity is a state of mind. It is a determination to improve on yesterday's performance and to do even better tomorrow. So this means that we're in a continuous mode of improvement. We are always trying to get better at whatever it is we are doing. And to summarize this, I would say, using this picture on the screen, this would say is a typical workplace. And you notice that when you look at this typical workplace, there are a lot of issues that can be concluded or deduced. In other words, it may not be a very productive workplace. They may have a lot of challenges to do with efficiency, to do with effectiveness. I don't know whether they'll be able to deliver those goods in time. And so when you look at that picture, you notice that what probably is required is that they will need to think about the solutions. Now, the good thing with this is that the solutions to the problems which they have, mostly which are the wheels for this carrier which they are pulling and pushing, you find that the solutions which they need are actually the same things they are carrying. And most of the time, Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, most of the time, the productivity problems that we face in our workplaces are such that the solutions to those problems are actually within our own hands. So what we're trying to emphasize here is that we should first of all look inwards and find solutions within. So they are carrying goods in this case, but they are using the wrong tools. And the solutions to the problem which they have is actually within their own hands. Now the question begs as to why are they doing the wrong things? There are two possibilities. It is possible that the workers are not willing to apply themselves to think about the solutions. Or it is possible that the employer is not allowing them to apply themselves and think about solutions. For this reason, you're going to notice that it takes two to tango. There has to be, first of all, willingness on the part of the workers to contribute towards making improvements. But there also has to be willingness on the part of the employer to support the workers to come up with solutions. Because most of the time, we find that the solutions are actually within our own control. And so what this depicts is the fact that productivity requires both the cooperation of management and that of the workers. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, we would say this is what we can safely say is the simplest definition of productivity. And what we've tried to do in this policy is to ensure that each and every person in every sector is able to identify themselves in the policy in terms of what actions must be taken, either at the individual level or at institutional level, for us to contribute towards the productivity growth of our country. And briefly, I also want to state here that why has this issue of productivity warranted a national policy? And I must stress that it is a national policy and not a sector policy only applicable to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. So the rationale or the case for productivity improvement arises from the following. One, if we focus on productivity as a country and use it as a catalyst for achieving accelerated economic development, what productivity will do is that it will spur increased competitiveness of firms or institutions. And this will lead to competitiveness both in terms of the quality of goods as well as the prices of those goods and services. And in the long term, this is likely going to lead to national competitiveness. In other words, the country will now be able to compete favorably on the global market. And this in turn brings about economic and social development. And what this does, and perhaps this is critical in us appreciating why have we located productivity in the portfolio responsible for labor and social security. Because we realize that jobs do matter. Statistics, Honorable Minister, show that in terms of issues of decent jobs, in developed countries, about 80% of household incomes comes from wages or from jobs. Whereas in middle-income nations, about 60% of household incomes comes from jobs. Whereas in poorer, low-income nations, only about 40% household income comes from jobs, which means that the remainder 60% are depending on the 40% who are in employment. So the reason why we're insisting here that with productivity growth, we can help in creating jobs, decent jobs for that matter. This should be able to translate not only in jobs in terms of numbers, but it should also translate into other social outcomes, such as improved standard of living. Because we are saying, if for instance we're able to get to a point where 80% of household incomes are going to come from wages in this country, it will mean that it will only be 20% of the people depending on 80% of the population. But the opposite usually happens in low-income countries like ours, in the sense that only about 40% of the people will be feeding the other 60% of the people. And this is why we are stressing in this policy that we need to work in a concerted manner to improve or raise the levels of productivity, raise the levels of competitiveness, being able to create and sustain jobs. In that way, we'll be able to translate into improved standard of living of the people. And this is the rallying call throughout this policy, that it's not productivity for the sake of productivity, but this productivity should translate into improved livelihoods for the people eventually. Coming back to the policy, Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this policy can be summarized into four. The first one is that we're trying, like I mentioned earlier, to facilitate adoption of a common understanding of productivity. We all want to be able to define productivity in a common way that relates to what we do in whatever sector we are. In other words, so much so that whenever we talk about productivity, we'll all be able to understand it in a much simpler and much practical way. Number two, the policy is aimed at strengthening the capacity of institutions that promote productivity. I must mention here that there are a number of institutions besides the Ministry of Labor and Social Security which promote productivity, and this policy has recognized the role of all those institutions, and our interest is ensuring that we, through this policy, strengthen their capacity to be able to perform this mandate. Number three is to act as a catalyst for motivating individuals and institutions in raising national productivity. And so, working alongside other institutions, we'll be providing support, especially to those institutions that are vulnerable, the small and medium enterprises, those that are owned by women, those that are owned by the youth, and those that are owned by persons with disabilities. So we just help them build that capacity to be able to grow their levels of productivity. And number four is also to provide a comprehensive coordinating mechanism, because there are a lot of players in this field, and what we want is that all of us should be pulling in the same direction. In other words, we want to reduce on duplication. We also want to ensure that we develop various synergies to help us have maximum impact in terms of improving the country's productivity. It is the vision of this policy that we should have a productive and competitive nation by 2030. Now, you recall, all of you, that about 15, 16 years when this vision was coined, 2030 seemed very far. But at this point, 2030 is just a few years down the line. And this means, Honorable Minister, the challenge we've gotten ourselves to perform in this policy is to ensure that we achieve the ideals of this policy within these few years remaining before the year 2030. I must mention it's never too late. Actually, the policy has come at the right time, because it now gives us a clear focus in terms of the efforts we're going to put in to be able to achieve this vision. The policy has got 6 guiding principles, some of which have been drawn or derived from the Republican Constitution. The first one is equity and social justice. The second is sustainable development. The third is social dialogue. The fourth is equality and non-discrimination. The fifth is good governance and integrity. And the last is morality and ethics. And in closing my discussion of the policy, let me just briefly go through the 6 objectives of the policy. Objective number 1 is to improve the level of productivity in all sectors of the economy. And as we'll learn later, this is perhaps one of the most important tasks that we have to perform to raise the levels of productivity of this country. Number 2 is to promote decent work for productivity improvement. As a matter of fact, decent work in this case is a foundation for us to raise the levels of our productivity as a country. Number 3 is to strengthen institutional coordination, framework on productivity. And number 4 is to enhance human capital development. Honorable Minister, we have taken a human-centered approach to improving productivity. In fact, a behavioral approach. And this is the reason why we are focusing a lot on issues to do with the mindset. Because you notice that the countries that have gone ahead of us, they use the same facilities that we are using. Even the facilities we are using to communicate today are also being used in other countries, and other facilities such as equipment, etc. But what we need to probably work on a lot is the issue of our attitudes, the attitudes towards work, our mindset towards generally life, so that we have this belief of progress, that we can improve from what we were yesterday, we can even make a better tomorrow. The 5th objective of the policy is to promote environmentally sustainable, resilient, and innovative production methods. And number 6 is to enhance the adoption and use of productivity measurement systems. They say what cannot be measured cannot be improved. And this is one of the things that has been set out in this policy, that we improve our capacity to measure and monitor the productivity levels of this country. So with that, the policy requires for us to be able to coordinate various institutions that are performing different roles in the area of productivity. And the Ministry of Labor will continue as mandated to provide the leadership in this area, but working along with other institutions. The policy does provide for putting in place of a national coordinating committee that is going to bring on board various stakeholders to be able to account and support the programs that are aimed at improving national productivity. With that, just to echo what the policy really is all about and the essence of productivity, Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is that today must be better than yesterday, and tomorrow must be better than today. That is simply the spirit of progress. But also, ultimately, what this policy aims to do is to ensure that as a country we can attain the twin goals of economic prosperity as well as improvement in the standard of living of the Zambian people. I'll pause at this stage because I'll be moving straight into the other discussion, the other paper that we'll also be launching today. With your permission, Honorable Minister, I will be able to proceed in that way. Today, Honorable Minister, is a historical day in the sense that you are not only scoring a first of having the first policy on productivity being launched, but also today we are launching the first ever Zambia Productivity Report. There's never been any official statistics on productivity in this country before. And I must commend your leadership, Honorable Minister, and the Permanent Secretary and the entire leadership of the ministry and the sector for providing leadership and support to this process. So we'll be launching today as well the Zambia Productivity Report covering the period 2012 to 2018. And as I'm speaking, statistics for the period 2019 to 2020 are also going peer review, and they too shall be published soon. Now, what this report is all about is that it focuses a lot on issues of labor productivity levels and growth rates in the 19 industrial sectors. So we focused on the industrial sectors for which the country has identified as key growth areas. And it is in these industries that the productivity report has focused on. It is, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the definition of productivity, it is focused on the two variables. And in this case, the input variables, we're using the hours of labor, which we derive from the labor force statistics, whereas the output is derived from the gross domestic product information, which is derived from the national accounts. And my role, Honorable Minister, at this stage was to probably just give an overview of the documents that today you'll be handing over to our distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are present here, as well as officially launching to the general public out there, some of whom are following us through various platforms virtually. And with that, I'll now wish to hand over the podium to my colleague, Mr. Moffat Billy, who will also briefly take us through the service charter, which we have decided to launch alongside the national productivity policy, because they say charity begins at home. And what this service charter, like the permanent secretary said, is that it first and foremost gives the commitment by the ministry in terms of how it shall be able to improve its service delivery levels. I thank you for your attention.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. May I recognize the Permanent Secretary? And should I just say that I want to write on the protocols which have been established earlier by the Master of Ceremony and the previous speakers. As has been outlined, I'm here to briefly outline the contents of the Service Delivery Charter, which the Ministry has developed. It's also a first of its kind in the Ministry. I'll straight away go to the outline of the presentation. This report, the presentation focuses on the outline which is established. It first outlines the purpose of the charter. It tries to define why do we have this charter. It also outlines the core values and principles upon which the ministry, which guides the ministry in its quest to deliver services. We also outline what our clients should expect from us, as well as presenting the service standards for the various functions which the ministry perform. We also talk briefly about the rights and obligation of the clients, as well as the grievance handling procedures, the feedback mechanisms, as well as the accountability on the charter performance. In terms of the values, the ministry is committed to ensuring that our services that we offer are done in a transparent manner. This is very key. The other value is that we are accountable for all the actions that we do. So we espouse accountability as one of the guiding principles of the ministry. We are also loyal to the government of the day. We commit to implement the aspirations of the party in government to ensure that the programs outlined in the various policies are also implemented. As a ministry, we also value teamwork because we believe if we work together, we're going to achieve much, just as we are doing today. We also value excellence in our work. We believe that the people of Zambia deserve quality services. And in order for us to do that, we have to do it with excellence. That's key. And we also value impartiality. As a labor sector, we ensure that we are fair in our dealings. We don't take sides. This is to ensure that we are very objective in all that we do. And above all, we also commit ourselves to being people of integrity so that we're able to carry out our work with professionalism. So as a ministry, this is what we commit. As a ministry, we commit to strive continuously to improve the standard of service so as to meet the client's needs and expectations. Our esteemed clients have the right to expect timely provision of services by their respective departments. This is what we are promising to our clients. The ministry is mandated to carry out a number of functions as outlined in Government Gazette number 516 of 2016. And some of the core functions some of the functions or the major services which the ministry offers outlined in the various service portfolios which we have. For example, under the Department of Social Security, the services offered relate to pension dispute resolution, social security updates, and of course, generally regulating the social security sector in terms of providing policy and legislation. Under National Productivity Department, the services offered include administration of psychometric tests. These are aptitude tests which the ministry superintends over from time to time. It also undertakes productivity consultants and training, as well as their productivity measurement. Under the Department of Occupational Safety and Health, the services include lifting equipment certificates. This is the certification of the lifting equipment in terms of the renewal, in terms of the new ones, and those which are being modified. Those have to be certified. We also ensure that the pressure vessels are also inspected and certified. We also do the renewals, the new ones, and also those which have been modified. We also undertake occupational accident reports as well as occupational safety and health training. Under Labor Department, the services include resolution of labor complaints, employment agency certificate payments, renewal of employment agency payments, attestation of contracts and condition of service, certificate of registration of trade unions. As you know, later today, the minister will be handing over a certificate to one of the new trade unions which have been registered. There is also approval of recognition of agreement. The other services include approval and registration of collective agreements, mediation on industrial unrest, collective dispute resolution and conciliation, and trade union election. In terms of the other standards outlined in the service charter, as an example, we've picked two for you to appreciate. There are a number of the standards that you will see in the charter, specific to most of those functions which I've already outlined. For example, if the client contacts the ministry by telephone, the ministry staff shall identify themselves by name and department. This is our commitment. The ministry staff shall give clear and easy to understand advice. So advice will be very clear. And where the ministry staff are unable to answer the inquiry immediately, they will advise on a comprehensive reply when a comprehensive reply can be expected. So there will always be some kind of feedback which will be given. If the client visits our offices at the ministry, the client shall be attended to within 30 minutes of the appointed time. So each time you make an appointment to come to the ministry, be rest assured you'll be attended to within this stipulated time. Without an appointment, the ministry shall endeavor to ensure that the client is attended to within 30 minutes of arrival. This is because there could be other engagements at that particular time, but to also endeavor to attend to those who might come without appointment. Now, what are the rights and obligations of our clients? So the ministry's obligation to our clients include that will provide efficient and timely service, will make timely response to communication, instruction, requests, and returns, will provide accurate and relevant information, as well as timely resolve clients' grievances. This is our commitment. We continue with the commitments. Now, focusing on the clients. The clients, on the other hand, who have the right to expect quality standard of service from the ministry. The clients also expect accurate information, privacy and confidentiality, prompt responses to queries and requests, courteous assistance at all times, and complain when services received do not meet the service standard. The ministry obligation to standard include provides efficient and timely service, make timely responses to communication, instruction, requests, and returns, provide accurate and relevant information, and timely resolve client grievances. And in terms of the client obligations, the clients will be expected to comply with any existing law and regulations, make all official communication inquiries and follow-ups through the Office of the Permanent Secretary, not to offer any favors or inducements to the ministry staff or solicit the same from them. So we will not accept any form of bribes. Accurately complete any applicable forms and attach all the requested documentations. Promptly provide information required by the ministry, pay applicable charges where necessary, and also acknowledge response provided by the ministry, and treat ministry staff with courtesy. And this is should be emphasized that our members of staff also deserve to be treated with courtesy. In terms of grievance handling procedures and feedback mechanism, complaints can be made by telephone, email, or letter, or in person by visiting our offices. So when complaining, the complainant will be asked to state clearly why they are not happy with the service or conduct of the ministry staff, or state what they would want to be, what they want to be rectified, and also to be honest as possible. In terms of the feedback mechanism, the ministry shall acknowledge receipts of all complaints and suggestions. The ministry shall respond to all written complaints within 10 working days of receipt of such a complaint. And complaints will be resolved within 30 working days of their receipt. And where the ministry is unable to provide a comprehensive reply within that time, the complainant shall be informed accordingly. So this is our commitment. In terms of accountability on the charter performance, the ministry will be the ministry will continue to be transparent and accountable in the performance of its mandate. It shall publish information on levels of compliance with reference to the service standards and guarantees made in this charter. We shall publish performance results against the charter, commitments in the ministerial and departmental as well as annual reports. We shall report on the charter performance to our clients and other stakeholders, including members of staff, and we shall publish a summary of complaints categorized by type, frequency of occurrence, and action taken by the ministry. So in conclusion, the ministry is committed to providing public services in a professional, transparent, and accountable manner. The charter reflects our commitment to deliver high-quality services on a continuous basis. It will also be used as a tool for enhancing smoother interface between our clients and the Ministry of Labor. Please take time to go through the charter and all the other service standards which are associated with the services that are being provided. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Director Moffat Billy, Director of Planning and Research Department, and he was preceded by the Director, National Productivity Development. That was Moffat Billy and Cyprian Mayamba, respectively. And yes, indeed, we should all endeavor to not only get copies of the service delivery charter, but even of the implementation plan and as well the National Productivity Policy. And I was listening to Mr. Billy as he was rolling out, the things that we should expect from the ministry. And I said, my goodness, if all these things were implemented as he is saying, it will certainly change the face, the narrative, and the reputation of government. Not only the ministry, but government. You see, because you know how Zambians talk. You all know how Zambians talk. Everyone will be saying, if you want proper service from government, go to the Ministry of Labor. These other ministries, there is, And so you become a reference point, and therefore inspire change throughout government, and we pray that it doesn't take too long. But then again, there's no better ministry for such a movement to start from than the Ministry of Labor. So big congratulations to you, Madam Minister of the PS, and the directors. And yeah, we're rooting for you. We're seriously rooting for you that all these good things, like I said, will just change the narrative and the reputation of our government in terms of service delivery. We have among us a group of young people that are going to give us a performance now, And they are called Ensemble Arts Acres. And I'd like to give them a big round of applause now as they come forward with their first performance. We saw them as we were walking in. They were the ones who were playing the drums and singing to welcome us, each one as we arrived for this function at the very beginning. But now they're coming to give us a performance. And this is a dance. And so let's give a big hand to Ensemble Arts Acres. They're coming to give us a dance. A little later, they have a performance of a different kind, which will be a sketch. But for now, let's welcome them for their dance. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ensemble Arts Acres, for that dance. Well, now it is time for us to begin to invite other representatives who have been chosen to address us today. And we will start with ZCTU, the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, who are representing the workers themselves. Mr. Newman Wubala, the Secretary General of ZCTU, is here to give us his speech. Just before you start, Mr. Wubala, allow me to once again ask those of us, or those that are joining us online. I think some of us heard when the directors were speaking, there seemed to be some feedback, some sound that was coming, some repetition of what was being said. That is because someone's mic was not muted. And so please, those online, if you're listening to me, please make sure that your mic is muted. If you don't know how, please find somebody who can help where you are. And so with that, let me invite now Mr. Newman Wubala from the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions to address us. Mr. Wubala, so let's give him a hand, shall we? Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. The guest of honor, Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, Mrs. Joyce Nonde Sumkoko, MP. The Permanent Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Chanda Kazia. Senior government officials present, the representative, Zambia Federation of Employers, the Director, International Labour Organization, Mr. George Okulu, colleagues from the media, ladies and gentlemen. I feel greatly privileged to be given the opportunity to make some remarks on the behalf of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions. I would like, in this first instance, to thank the Minister of Labor and Social Security for extending an invitation to the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions to come and make some remarks at the launch of the first ever productivity policy. May I also take this opportunity to congratulate you, Honorable Minister, and the Ministry for achieving the important milestone in the history of the Ministry. The audience should clap for the great work you are doing. The guest of honor, we would like to indicate and also appreciate the fact that the Congress of Trade Union, the CTU, has been involved in all the processes leading to the launch of this policy we are witnessing today. This deserves commendation because this is how it should be. As key stakeholders in the national development, the Congress would like to assure government that the workers of this country will support the full implementation of the policy and its accompanying strategy. Workers consider productivity as necessary tool to ending poverty in the country, and this is why we always encourage our members to work hard and increase productivity. We realize that the outcome benefits the entire country. We are interested in productivity improvement because we believe that it's one effective way to achieve our goal of improving the living standards of our members and their families. However, to achieve this should be an active and effective system of industrial relations which aims at creating a favorable environment for higher productivity. In this regard, it's important to enhance the capacity of stakeholders and trade unions, in particular to participate in national efforts aimed at improving productivity and competitiveness, creating more employment opportunities, and also enhance mechanisms for social dialogue and collective bargaining. Honorable Minister, it's always good to be here on issues of productivity than always collective bargaining, sharing ideas which are so progressive. We appreciate a lot, and we'll always be part of it. More so, it must be mentioned that stakeholders should not only be interested in productivity improvement, but should also be interested in equitable sharing of the fruits of improved productivity. We have no doubt that the higher productivity packaged with good distribution and development policies, such as education, health, and social protection, is the best available means for poverty reduction. Guests of honor, Congress would like to call on stakeholders, especially government, to extend knowledge sharing and training to the informal economy because the sector has huge potential to help improve national productivity. Let's ensure that we capacitate the informal economy in order to promote higher productivity and ultimately enhance welfare of the country. Allow me to conclude by making an appeal to all training providers to work with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security to come up with easier and cheaper packages of productivity enhancement. This is important in order for us to achieve the strategic objectives for the policy we are launching today. We thank you, Honorable Minister. May God bless you and wish you all stakeholders success in the implementation of this important policy. Thank you once more for inviting us. May God richly bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chuan. Mr. Buvala, Mr. Newman Buvala, who is Secretary General of ZCTU, the representatives of the workers. And so, under the new normal, under the circumstances, we have some of our presenters here with us, like Mr. Buvala, but others that have also been asked to address us on this important occasion are joining us virtually. We would try to insist to them that they can still come here and speak to us virtually, but they declined to do so. So they are the president of the Copperbelt region for the Zambia Federation of Employers, Mr. Sikombe, will join us virtually and he will address us. So I'll ask that we turn our attention to the screen right now for Mr. Sikombe, representing the Zambia Federation of Employers. And so we're waiting to establish the link with Mr. Sikombe, President of the Copperbelt region for the Zambia Federation of Employers. And while we are waiting to do so, I just wish to announce in advance that we will also be joined virtually by a representative from the International Labour Organization. We had initially hoped we'd get the director himself, Mr. George Okuto, but we will instead be addressed by Mr. Gerald Tembo, who is standing by to give us his address immediately after Mr. Sikombe is connected with, and he gives us his address.
Hello. Good morning. I would like to present the speech on behalf of the Zambia Federation of Employers. The guest of honor, Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Joyce Nonde Simkoko, MP, distinguished members of the High Table, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, it is always pleasing to have an opportunity to make some remarks at an important function such as this. Allow me from the onset to commend the Ministry of Labor and Social Security for finally having concluded and produced the National Productivity Policy, which we have long been looking forward to. Having developed as employers, we have no doubt that the National Productivity Policy being launched today will provide guidance to all stakeholders and the nation, specifically in the area of wealth creation in the country through enhanced productivity at enterprise, sector, and national level. We believe that if well actualized, the productivity policy will catalyze the growth of the Zambian economy to a level that can create jobs for the Zambian people. Guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, today Zambia, like other countries in the world, is facing the challenge of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. It continues to be a big threat, not only activity at enterprise sector and national level, but also to the employment creation and to the existing jobs that may be lost. The COVID-19 pandemic is building upon the vast and structural challenges that labor markets face. Therefore, to mitigate the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the labor market, flexibility and discipline by workers and business is required. A productivity policy such as the one being launched today is, in our view, one of the mechanisms of instilling that discipline. The policy calls for one to be mindful of the application of resources to production and attainment of desired and measurable results. Guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, while we wholeheartedly welcome the National Productivity Policy being launched today, other policy priorities for the road to sustainable economic recovery remain. These include addressing the current high cost of doing business in the country. The current business environment in the country does not promote business growth to a level that can create meaningful, decent employment for the Zambian people. Hence, the high level of unemployment in the country. Our call on government is that government must do that which only government can do, and that is to facilitate and create an enabling environment for private sector growth and resilience. In the absence of government creating such an environment, growth cannot take place and productive jobs cannot be created. An enabling environment for private sector growth is essential for creating a stable and predictable and incentivizing environment for investment and innovation. That is vital for any sustainable and job-rich recovery from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the world of work. This will complement the productivity policy. We also look forward to a relevant skills development policy that addresses the needs of industry. Currently, employers are looking for the right skills and competences as there is still a skills gap in the workplace, thus decreasing the opportunity for business growth and new employment opportunities. For this reason, guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, young people impacted significantly and face higher risks of long-term unemployment. Through policy direction, we must do all in our power to prevent a lost generation and ensure opportunities to transition from education into employment by ensuring that our skills curriculum is relevant for the labor markets. We must embrace new ways of delivering the curriculum supported by apprenticeship and other forms of vocational training, which can make a difference to reduce the widening skills gap. Honorable Minister, and your team in the ministry. Once more, well done, and we only hope that going forward, resources will be made available for the implementation of this policy. I thank you and ask God's blessings for everyone attending this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Sikombe, the President for the Copperbelt region of the Zambia Federation of Employers. I couldn't help but smile. You know, usually in our homes, we have situations where there's picture and no sound. In this case, we had sound but no picture. But we still thank Mr. Sikombe for indeed making it possible that he could join us and give us his remarks on behalf of the Zambia Federation of Employers. The next person to address us is Mr. Gerald Tembo, and he is representing Mr. George Okuto from the International Labour Organization.
Thank you so much, Master of Ceremony, Guest of Honor, the Minister of Labour and Social Security. My name is Gerald Tembo, the Program Officer for the ILO. I wish to apologize that Mr. Okuto is unable to join this morning. He's attending to another assignment. However, he assigned me to deliver a speech or the remarks on his behalf. So, Guest of Honor, Minister of Labour and Social Security, Honorable Joyce N. Simkoko MP, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Labour and Social Security, Mr. Chandakazia, Labour Commissioner, Mr. Gideons Muntengwa, the representative of the Employers Organization, Mr. Sikombe Stephen, the representative of the Workers Organization, Mr. Newman Wubala, senior government officials present, all invited guests, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be part of this mammoth launch of the National Productivity Policy for Zambia and its implementation plan. I would like to congratulate the Ministry of Labour and its partners for this achievement. Honorable Minister and your team, please receive the congratulatory message from the ILO. Productivity for the ILO, usually we refer to SDG targets 2.3 and 2.4, particularly subsistent agriculture. And also under target 8.2, which deals with the factors of productivity, thus recognizing that greater productivity is essential to combat hunger, advance decent work, and boost economic growth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, we acknowledge low productivity is one of the root causes of the working poor phenomenon. People who work long hours, often in the informal economy or in subsistence agriculture, but still do not earn enough to feed their families. Therefore, raising productivity and ensuring that productivity gains are equitably shared between business owners and investors, higher profits and stakeholder value, and workers for higher wages and better working conditions is therefore of critical importance in efforts to reduce poverty. The vicious cycle of productivity, employment, and development can be fueled through the reinvestment of productivity gains into product and process innovations, plant and equipment improvements, and measures to enhance the skills and improve the work environment of the workforce. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, as alluded to by the Director of Productivity, Mr. Mayamba, the objectives of the National Productivity Policy includes the following, and I repeat for the sake of emphasis. 1, contributes towards improve the level of productivity in all sectors. 2, it promotes decent work. 3, it supports institutional coordination framework. 4, it contributes to human development capital of the nation. And 5, it promotes acquisition of productive skills, among other objectives. Honorable Minister, our guest of honor, I'm very grateful that you have also developed an implementation plan of the policy. The encouragement from the ILO is that we implement the policy according to the plan, as well as according to the service delivery charter that we are launching today, which is a milestone. Guest of honor, as I conclude, the ILO promotes enhanced productivity through better working conditions and the full respect of labor rights. We also reiterate that social dialogue is crucial to all efforts aimed at improving productivity as it promotes industrial harmony in the workplace. Finally, guest of honor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the view of COVID-19 pandemic, we reiterate that the productivity policy has come at the right time because we need to protect as well as create new jobs for everyone. I thank you, congratulations, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gerald Tembo, representing Mr. George Okuto of the International Labour Organization. And so with that, that is a complete team, Honorable Minister. We have the representation from employers, employees, and stakeholders and partners who are affirming their support of these documents that we are launching and celebrating today. So it's a winning team. It can only get better. What do they say? You will see now. Otherwise, everything is in place for the success of indeed the policy, the implementation plan, the service charter, productivity, everything. So let's all look forward indeed to good things. And now to put this event into perspective, into deeper perspective, we're going to call on the Ensemble Arts Acres one more time. And this time they will come with a sketch which is themed around what we are here for, the National Productivity Policy and Implementation Plan. Over to the Ensemble Arts Acres. Okay, no, those were not the Ensemble Arts Acres. That's an online viewer. Once again, and all the online viewers, please make sure that you mute your mics as you follow the proceedings here. If you're one of the speakers, please remember to just press that button so that indeed we don't get any more sound from where you are. So the Ensemble Arts Acres have a sketch, have a drama that they have prepared specifically for us today on this occasion of the launch of the National Productivity Policy and Implementation Plan.
Why you say that? Supposed to send that for 3 days. You already send it 1 day. Bati matumbo muzilaka. Ngato pasa mugwazo kukoisha bwana. Musibezi.
Mugwazo nuameni. Kusema mukoseze zame kuoneka. Pena ngaseze fast mugwazo. Pena msuzuza.
Manje matumbo, you know as of the university. We've got ethics and principles towards what? Towards way. Wakati pasa kwino.
Kalana kizungu chani. Bati nimemanda hapa. Inaniseleza go through. Maneno pole la kangama kangono. Na nchito nzasenza pangono. Apa siprotana ntawa penzi likuti. Penzi. Irukuti. Utanena kusa wetu utuja afuna penzi.
Manje mantumbo. Ivo panogwira ivo. Nipa kampani. Chifungo services
kampani ndani. Kampani ndile na iwe.
Nipa boma panotenga.
Boma ni ndani.
Mantumbo. Apatiza kwirana mantumbo. We are going to fight. We are going to fight. Can you please take those things right away?
Kizungu, penze na kizungu ba. Wamba, close your cover. Ina ngatuni sobeleza ba. Zuba isiona. We, nikutumira nzimu tikulumi. Noni, ngatupusa naini. Kupezeka kizipabeti.
Matumbo nezo kamba kocha.
So nisiye nikugulise cyane penzi. Bana kitapano biperele muti mwameno.
Ukakambako walako. Okay. Nati atumbo wazani atumbo apwena.
Mukamba imezando undaba. Nipeze mabeli tandi mwandana beli. Maibala? Manibala manani lili. Lima munga beli tandi.
Atumbo, please. Mwajali la kulofia wantu pakampa. Nimesimuza nyote. Ine mungu kawala la simi mnopa. Ine mbina wina ango. Na jina ya muzila.
Benita. Je, kwe. Ine pano wina gona.
Ati?
Wina gona.
Kamba boyo kiana.
Usa wina gona.
Watu gona ibo. Atumbo museti kuti musebenze. Mwinda. Mwatenga penti mwaindo kulisa.
Nakulisa penti. Siya kwelela ipenti. Nakulisa. Ndima moza. Nipeleke mabaya. Bayaka.
Mwaona antika. Mwakuona kuba kuti nkoipa. Manje pamene hapa pang'ono nikufunza nkoni. Atumbo mwamene mubera mwaka. Ngati mwana wangu kunyumba hapa ngamwita napinda.
Nikawala.
Nangakwenda mwanda.
Baboma itinako. Baboma.
Manje mverana anti. Ndiye anotoko kamba hapo antia. Adumbu. Bane mchita ifitikamba charity begins at home. Kunyumba ndio kwane vitokera. Kunyumba kutanga tipuzira bwino nokumwamba sasa bwana tisapuzira bwino.
So imutanza kuti kutenga vintu vya kampani ni problem.
Sisaseweza bwanji ngati
manje ndikaembekeze pasake. Nikakula motabu tukapenda tukababa nchinala.
Manje adumbu apatika mbankhani yanchito tenzi ivi baka baba bakapeta bise bwanji ngalifanya. Muziva konkala na vintu vitatu panchito. One, sazo wasting time. Yai muheve sajiwo nonga lupangono peka. Two, sisowelesa material. Material isiku kata kuisoponeza kako na evi. Three, adumbu. Kuli wantu wana mapepa mkombo. Wana madegree. Yao la tape misi. Bati wafuna tani. Chito. Bati mwapa. Chito kuzelezi mkangi.
Please, nkanza meza so. Nezokamba kochari. Sinezi na inteke nyo kulisa.
Okay.
Hivi na zinatenga tabe nuone kuti ingakwane kuta kunyumba kwanga ingakende okukulisa.
Manje ngelana tu. Sintimwe mweka mulina ngali kwaso. Yakuba. Ni bambili. Ni bambili wana makali ya mimi.
Suwa.
Walimu. Mose olomu, mose maskuzi muti. Walimu. Ndiye muononga iwe, muonongeratu. Siko pamamba ili prokasi pasi nenda tanki. Inationgera. Era nafuti anti, notukuvila nkoni pangono. Kulizina ngubana mbakamba Zambian time.
Okay. Yes, Zambian time ifunika.
Panchito 10 hours, mpira 10 hours.
Nanga pali kuto bwani.
Muzasebeza bwani. Tizatukuka bwani talo.
So imwe mtantauza kuti. Walosenza kandrama kangono. Funikofaka compound.
Exactly.
Ngati kusendela kandrama kangono. Chitolo mikuru bwani suka wesebeza.
Waisebeza bwino bwino.
Kandrama kamene yako. Oho.
Uzamvera kwanzi mwenda muofe simungo pesa teketeri kumpando. Munga muli muntu mnyangane. Mulije. But tiketi kazienda. As long as nzita ni chapu inolo choinga. Itoimbira kutikati.
Iwe, nanga ntchito za mboma zisira. Ukankhala olo 3 years, 3 months uli kunyumba ofora tatu.
Tiketi yenda. Nichoipa ito.
Bati, vana mwakamba, natenga motani. 6. Mwana mwakamba ati charity begins at home. Nzona. Ifete vantu tufunga chakwa. Ino ziko yatu ni ziko latu. Zambia ni yako. Zakapesa Zambia ina. Mwana nzo utengela vintu kunipweza ziko kuti.
Basi.
Ngatikapaka konzeru tosiseza pamoja ziko zaenda kuti.
Usokolo. Mumaona wazaki from Japanese. Kapena ma Chinese machotwa. Wanazina wanakambati kazeni.
Namuze wa kazeni.
Nane ni ninae. Kamba kazeni. Kazeni. Yakuti chito. Waitinga lero nasebeza bwi. Mailo nkachekwaji. Bakachireko. Na ichatipa kachekwaji. Bakachireko. Akufeka. Akuwa simu kulisa kamata.
Nima kulisa kamata.
Mwawata boksi mozi na yatu mati. Mailo kubwa ilo nilaka hayangati.
Yamini.
Mazo kubwa ilo nilaka hayangati.
Ria.
Hizi na sienda kuti pasokolo. Ndipa vile mzao na kuti oloise muno mwatu mzambe. Ngatisa bwino. Kibwiri zamba. Sikaba voice ngati. Zambi aenda kuti
pasokolo. So mtenda tufuna katika kamba kwesi imozi.
Yes.
Wamu private imozi. Wamu government imozi.
Mukamba bwino kwa muzifi chako.
Okay. Tano tukize.
Ngati kuiza tomato. Muoda tomato. Ikasimu sio moi patumira. Kapena moya mbida process. Minister of Labor.
Okay.
Iza kutanizirani. Uzisani.
Na wale batadizira.
Karimu.
Yange namu. Uchitira kuti aliyensa ziyo kuti whatever you are doing. Iza kuruso. Whatever you are doing. In one way or the other. Or in many ways you are contributing to the economic progression of this country.
Tokera pamena hapa. Niendo tenga kazi banga 9.
Mupera.
Nine.
Peter.
Okay.
Okay. Leveraging the national productivity.
Na kapoko nafuta ni mapolisi.
Polisi mira muno.
Oho.
Ni program ya Minister of Labor. Izako. Noti yeka. Pamoja na yeye.
Oho.
Wakomesi. Agriculture.
Na ifatu manchemba. Oho.
Makambangwi.
Niendo tenda kazi langa lero. Itanchemba ukomboni watoke ukomboni. Hapo ofisi kwa neshenzera.
Sikukamba kuti kwendo batenga. Kwamene kuza kone bali. Kole bashita bwanji bakazingulisa sana bwino. Bakaziona kuti business yao ita bwanji. Yenda pamoja. Kuti batuchemba weka even kuma school. Bauze bana batu. Kuti haitenda kaziberenge ndatenda kutani ku university. Kuti kala zatu tende patani.
Pasokolo. Imwe majimo makamba. Apa ponze. Boma ndugenda cyane. Wese nafaka ko malamulo.
Adungo. Lelo so. Isetenda kulonda. Launch. Kienda kulonda bakati kisa malamulo lelo.
Nikonga. Nikonga.
Kienda kulonda lelo bakati sagani
malamulo. Mateli malamulo bwanja menayo. Kisani yati.
Ezabera ndani achiva. Yezo pichabo bakamba kuti. Iyi ni national productivity policy.
Oho. Yamnanza kuza kwa kapokola.
Okay. Kazi kasatani. Lamulo. Funika kose bashite bwanje bazile bantu.
Apa manje naona kuti boma yatengana mwakamba chatikazeni na lini. Na lamulo na polisi ya Zambia. Mwabivurunganya.
Kukomeza kusaka
Mwavisanganiza.
mwavisanganiza
Isemanja yatu isanganiza tukasokolo.
oho
Eh.
waulesi
Asadye.
That's
Tisemeleze pamoja. That's why wakamba kuti panchini ungatiwangala panchini. Ufunza kupira ntchito ija na mphamvu zako zonse. Osataya nthawi. Kote pamene enda watoka mu office nthawi isakani. Kuchoma kwa zuwa palibe chamene wachita. Nichizambi akwela kuti basi
Tuone na kuti tazisebenza bwino bwino. Vane tiriso kuti material paja ilipo, osebenza alipo, but mawetsuit bose Mr. Plant
Zilipo.
zasebenza bwino. Anti kendi ambe kuleza
koma atumbo msaende msilize mkwazo.
Sani mkwazo wani
nienda kurochi
sirizani lipekaenda tasirize
imwe vanhu mukadie mweka msindizani
Kulanchi pamene niye. Kuli na minister. Nazmani.
Minister ndani
Ada Joyce Simgogo.
ni vaziva asangomekeza
sirizani mkwazo wani
manje ine ni msali na ine ni koma
A big round of applause for the Ensemble Arts Acres. Yeah, no words needed to be added to that. The message is loud and clear. Thank you so very much. May I now ask the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Chanda Kazia, to invite our guest of honor to address us. Mr. Kazia, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and dear colleagues. My task is always a simple one at this point in time. It's just to call upon you, Honorable Minister, to present your speech. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, PS. Good morning, everybody. I acknowledge the presence of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, the president of the Federation of Employers, I know is not here, but he is represented. I recognize your presence, and I know the International Labour Organization is following our proceedings, senior government officials, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I will comment the issue of work attitude before I go into my speech. I tell my colleagues that if we are not able to put in 8 hours per day as per the Zambian labor laws, and we work 3 hours a day, and we go home, and maybe no one discovers that you don't work 8 hours per day, but you should know that this is a Christian nation, and God is watching. So when you finally die, God will tell you that you are a thief. And then you say, no, I wasn't a thief. And then he will show you how you were working only 2 hours or 3 hours, but you are paid for 8 hours per day. So I'm saying this because our work culture is always questionable. So we need to change our attitudes if we have to develop this country. We need to put in 8 hours per day and be paid for 8 hours per day. If we are not putting in 8 hours per day, tell the payroll manager that pay me for only the hours I worked. Then you are a Christian. So we need to change our work culture if we have to develop our nation, and we should look forward to the other generation to find a better country than maybe we will have ourselves. So the reading culture also is a problem in our country. I talk about our laws, our labor laws rank among the best on the African continent, but we don't read. We don't read. Most of the grievances we are resolving at the Ministry of Labor, when people bring their grievances, we find that it's the reading culture which is a problem. My people perish because of lack of knowledge, and we see it in the Ministry of Labor. our labor laws rank among the best in Africa, but we have decided not to read. Even if I ask today how many have read the labor code, the new labor code, I'm sure very few. So we need to change our reading culture. We need to read. And once we read, no one will take advantage of us when we are knowledgeable. People have told me sometimes, no, we can't say anything at a workplace because they will fire us. I said I was also a worker, and a young worker for that matter, and I remember I've never seen anyone who has been fired for complaining on the truth, unless you are lying. So we need to read the labor code, understand it, and you tell me that once you read it and understand it and apply it, no one will take advantage of you. So we need to improve on our reading culture as a country. The President has made it very clear that he doesn't want to see anyone left behind. And as I said earlier, yes, all of us, we cannot be left behind if we develop a reading culture, and also ensuring that we participate at a workplace. We should understand what the employer is trying to do. We must understand where the institution is going, and also participate so that at the end of the day, the profits for those who are making profits are maximized, and through that we also benefit through salary increments and so on and so forth. I'm also discussing with the labor movement that we also have to change our negotiating culture of always just looking at increasing salaries. We need to also start looking at empowerment-based negotiations, where we empower our people. For example, I say it every day that it's suicidal if you left employment without buying a house or building a house, because you will not sleep on the tree. Or when you have no income every month, where are you going to sleep if you don't? Are you going to pay rent? The answer is no. We have a lot of land in this country which is idle, because we all want to be in woodlands, we all want to be in Livala, and we don't want to go into outskirts and buy land and spend most of our time, especially on holidays and weekends, like they do it in some countries. I know that for a fact that come Saturday, no one is in town. Everybody has gone to their small land to go and do whatever they can do on that land. I think we need to start discussing these issues at home level, at workplaces, and so on and so forth. So I always say, when we finally die, God will ask you why you were poor, and you have to account. So let's change our work culture, reading culture, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, I insist that our labor laws rank among the best on the African continent. So we have nothing to cry about. All what we need to do is change our attitudes. Then we will find that we make progress individually and collectively. The President is emphasizing on leaving no one behind, and that is a very good slogan. We all need to come together, work, and then divide the profits, and we will definitely become better people maybe than we have been. So you as leaders seated here, please ensure that we negotiate, that I include the employers, that we negotiate conditions of service based on the empowerment of our people. So it is now my pleasure to officiate at this launch. Did I have a problem?
Please, can you mute your mics, please? Mute your mic. We are getting interference. Thank you very much, Minister.
Okay. It is my pleasure to officiate at this launch of the long-awaited National Productivity Policy. I'm delighted that my ministry has finally responded to the call by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and social partners to formulate an appropriate policy framework for transforming Zambia into a competitive and productive nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to reaffirm that government is committed to deliver development to the Zambian people through various interventions as spelled out in the Vision 2030 7th National Development Plan and other national policies. The 7th National Development Plan recognizes productivity improvement as a foundation for sustained national economic development. It also acknowledges the close link between productivity and improved standards of living of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, the current challenges the country is facing require a mindset that believes that solutions lie within each one of us. The issue of solutions, I think we have now insisted that as we lament on a lot of issues that we are not happy about, let's have a culture of proposing solutions to every problem that we face. I hear a lot of lamentations only in that office, and when I say, what is the solution? What is the possible solution to this problem? Everybody keeps quiet. So we need to, once we lament on issues that we are not happy about, let's also propose solutions, especially us people seated here. We have the labor movement, we have the employers, and we have government. So let's go to these meetings having proposed certain solutions that we think can help us move forward as a country. And the Minister of Labor is ready to discuss any solution that can come on the table that brings advancement to all of us. By simply embracing a productive culture, we can address most of these challenges. However, this will not happen by chance, but through deliberate, well-coordinated efforts. The National Productivity Policy, therefore, provides for a common understanding of productivity. It serves as a means for strengthening the capacities of institutions mandated to promote productivity in order for them to effectively serve as centers of excellence for building the productive capacities of individuals and organizations. C acts as a catalyst for the motivating individuals and organizations in all sectors of the economy to work in concerted manner in efforts aimed at raising national productivity levels. And D provides a comprehensive coordinating mechanism for stakeholders working in the area of productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, may I take this opportunity to announce that the ministry will soon introduce registration to support implementation of the National Productivity Policy. And I want to insist here or plead with you that once we come up with, when we start now introducing a registration, let's participate. Half the time I have a problem, after we have finished discussions, people are not participating, then they come on board and start complaining that how have we passed this, why, and so on and so forth. So please, I've given you an opportunity to start discussing these matters so that when we come together to legislate, we all are doing it from the point of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, it is worth mentioning that the implementation of the National Productivity Policy will adopt a multi-sectoral approach through the involvement of the social partners. This is what I mean: government, ministries, and agencies. the private sector, non-governmental organizations, and cooperating partners. I therefore direct that the Permanent Secretary to ensure that a multi-sectoral coordinating committee be appointed without delay. The committee will assume an oversight role in the implementation of the policy. Ladies and gentlemen, implementation of the policy will involve inculcating positive attitudes towards work, facilitating skills acquisitions, building technological capacities, improving productivity measurement systems, and resolving decent work deficits. Ladies and gentlemen, you may also wish to take special note of the fact that the primary source of productivity gains that for any nation is not only at enterprise level, but also at family and individual level. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security, therefore, as a regulator of the labor market, desires, through this policy, harmonious industrial climate as a foundation for sustainable productivity growth. In addition, adoption of productive culture is critical for all the citizens, from a worker, from walks of life or ages, and at all levels of education, from early childhood to tertiary levels. Ladies and gentlemen, support to micro, small, and medium enterprises, particularly those owned by or employed by the youth, women, or persons with disabilities, will form the basis of my ministry's efforts in promoting sustainable enterprises. Sustainable enterprises allow for increased participation by vulnerable groups in the labor market, catering even for those in the informal sector. And I think we know that the informal sector is growing, and we are giving it a lot of attention because that's the way to go. But we are also appealing to the informal sector to also form cooperatives. In Bemba we say, you know, it's very difficult for government to assist individuals, but it is easier for government to assist groups. Because if you come together and form cooperatives, people with common interests coming together and forming a cooperative, it's easier for government to come in and help you on whatever you want to do. But when you trade unions, we talk about in united we stand, divided we fall. And it's a real solidarity forever, and it's real. We like to start a business alone. I don't know why. Even in families, we can't work together. And yet we are supposed to be a united force. So let's try to form cooperatives. People come together with common interests, and then it's easier for you to be assisted by any organized groups like the government and so on and so forth. But if you are alone, we are all alone, it becomes quite difficult to assist in situations like that. So let's try and do that. Inclusion of these vulnerable groups is critical in reducing development inequalities, unemployment, and poverty. In addition, the policy seeks to extend the productive life of old people by facilitating their integration into the labor market through voluntary work, advisory roles such as think tanks, consultancy, and other community engagements. Further, the policy is expected to increase government non-tax revenue through widespread use of aptitude tests for objective and merit-based selection of candidates for employment or training. Ladies and gentlemen, this event also serves as the launch of the first ever Zambia Productivity Report, covering the period 2012 to 2018, as well as the ministry's service charter. On this one also, I'm appealing to all of you. Some of you are here, others are at home or at workplaces. If this productivity report could be simplified, and then the human resource practitioners especially, please, let's have time when we call workers to come and discuss. We used to do that in the past when I was a young worker, where we go for lunch very quickly and then if there is a burning issue that affects us, we meet very quickly, even for 30 minutes, to discuss a document. We used to do that, but I don't know, along the way, people stopped doing it. Study circles are very important at workplaces, because sometimes you can't read the code alone. You know, it may be boring or it may be difficult, but if we all said, okay, let's go and have lunch, after that let's go in small groups, and I'm talking to human resource practitioners, you can lead this way, and the trade unions. You sit, look at the labor code, understand it, and if you have any issues, together as a group, you make some comments. So we need to see these things happening. At the Ministry of Labor, 3/4 of the grievances we receive, the grievances and complaints, are based on ignorance. My people will perish because of lack of knowledge, says the Lord. So I see ignorance everywhere. And I'm one of those who used to quarrel with the developed world when they say that Africa has many diseases. One of the main diseases is ignorance. I used to be very upset. But it's true. I've just come to realize that actually we are very ignorant. We believe in just studying to pass. Now, once you have a degree, you stop reading. Does the country stop moving? That's a problem. You find somebody is very highly educated but very ignorant. We need to change our attitudes. Our labor laws rank among the best in Africa. So what is the cry? The cry is, we are crying because we haven't read. That's a problem. If we had read the labor code, some of the problems have already been resolved. So we need to, I think we start from home, let the children be inculcated into reading, like our friends do. Bedtime, reading time, and they will get used. Because where we are going, life will be tougher than it is now. That's what I can see. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, this event also serves as the launch of the first ever Zambia Productivity Report, covering the period 2012 to 2018, as well as the Ministry Service Charter. So that's it's covering from 2012 to 2018, and I'll be very interested to get feedback from you, all of you, after you read it, so that we get your feedback, what you think should be improved upon, and so on and so forth. That's how Ministry of Labor can also make progress. The productivity report provides statistics on the Zambia's labor productivity levels and growth rates. I wish to inform you that with coming on board of the National Productivity Policy, this publication will now be released on an annual basis to inform decisions on matters of productivity, employment, and allocation of resources. On the other hand, the service charter for the ministry is meant to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the ministry's service delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I wish to thank you for the effort you're putting during the development of the policy and other documents being launched today. Special gratitude goes to the International Labour Organization for being an all-weather friend and partner, and especially for supporting the development of this policy and making this launch today possible. I also wish to pay sincere appreciation to the social partners and all other stakeholders for your valuable input. I now look forward to your active participation in the implementation of this policy. I'm insisting that if the human resource practitioners here or whoever is here, please, as employers, let's help our members and the trade unions. Please, let's come up with a program of action of how we are going to sell this policy so that everybody, we don't leave anyone behind, everybody will be up to date of what is in the productive on this policy, and then we should start moving together. I now look forward to your active participation in the implementation. I really look forward for that, and I also want feedback as we read and understand the policy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my singular honor and privilege to officially launch the policy for the implementation, and I would like to take this opportunity to greatly thank all those who participated in making it possible, and I would like to thank you, guests of, what do you call? Director of Programs there, as usual. You are always a star. Thank you very much for always being down with us as we go through some of these activities. So, dear colleagues, thank you so much. Please go home, read this policy. I insist, read the policy, and let's discuss where we feel we must to make some improvements. May the good Lord bless you all, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Madam Minister. So with that launch, may I invite you now to please stand and get ready to receive the final printed document of the National Productivity Policy and Implementation Plan, the Service Charter, and the Zambia Production Report, which will be presented to you by the Ensemble Arts Acres. Minister is now cutting the ribbon. And there we have it. The ribbon has been cut. Let's give a big hand to the Minister. Indeed, for there we have it now. There are all the documents, and indeed are being launched. Beautiful looking, wonderful, and very colorful print, making the documents very attractive to not only have on your table or on your bookshelves, wherever you are, but also to read. Another big round of applause for the Minister. Thank you so very much. Now, I'm sure, Madam Minister, there are a few copies. I'm sure the Minister would like to share a few copies with the High Table and other officials that are here present. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ensemble Arts Acres. Madam Minister, we just would like to beg that, you kindly share some of the okay, there we go. They're being distributed for the high table. But also, for everybody in here, we have made sure that each one of you will get a copy. And they will be distributed, I think, just about now. So please make sure that you stay in your seat as you wait for your copy. You're part of this historic moment, the launch of the first ever National Productivity Policy, first ever productivity report, first ever everything. So you can find a space somewhere just to scribble your name and say that you were here on this occasion today. And Madam Minister, we have a humble request to make of you once again. As has been alluded to more than once here in this program today, for the very first time, another first for your ministry, for the very first time, there will be a certificate to be handed over to the newly registered Special Education Teachers Union of Zambia, or SPETUZ in short. And so may I now invite you yet again, Honorable Minister, to please rise to hand over this certificate of registration to the newly registered Special Education Teachers Union of Zambia. And may I invite the executive representatives of SPETUZ that are here to please get ready to come forward and receive your certificates.
Yeah, so it's there. First and foremost, I would like to state that we are very happy. Where are our colleagues? The leaders. We are very sorry that all these years we have not, none of us in the unions could think about recruiting in your sector. But I think it's even better that you are now in your own sector. It was an oversight. We should have done it a long time ago. But it's nice that you have come, and I'm very, very grateful. I'm very happy myself, generally, that you are given a slot where you can bring out your own grievances, improve on your own lives, and so on and so forth, like any other labor movement. So you are welcome to the family. Are they already affiliated to you?
Not yet.
So welcome, and we are very happy. I'm supposed to give a... Where is the interim general secretary? Who is the interim general secretary? Oh, yeah. So much, and congratulations. This is your certificate, and this is the letter, the response to the letter.
Yes, it's a letter giving them obligations.
So we read and then understand them. Thank you. Congratulations. The interim president, I don't know, how do we call it? SPETUZ? Yeah, unions are full of abbreviations. The Interim National Executive Committee, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, today marks an important milestone in the labor movement as I officially hand over the certificate of registration to the Special Education Teachers Union of Zambia. Zambia has been at the center of providing special education to learners with special education needs. In the past, this was provided by the faith-based organizations and other charitable organizations. However, in 1972, the government took a major step in enhancing the provision of special education by establishing Lusaka College for Teachers of the Handicapped in 1996. This institution was transformed into Zambia Institute of Special Education through ZAMISA, UNZA, Kwame Nkrumah University, and other institutions. Numerous special education teachers have been trained in Zambia and beyond the borders. This is a clear example of the commitment of the government of the Republic of Zambia to streamline the provisions of special education. Initially, the provision of special education was given to those who were perceived to be severely disabled. This was delivered in residential schools for children with special education needs. Later, special education units were established across the country in mainstream schools. In the recent past, advocacy has been improved through the provisions of inclusive education. This in itself has called for more special education teachers to make a reality. Thus, education providers, both public and private, have equal to the task of training more teachers for special education. Hence, this means that special education teachers have enhanced considerably over the years. Despite the significant increase in the number of special education teachers across the country, there was no union which specifically represented the special education teachers. In most of the existing teacher unions, it has been observed that their representation is restricted to a special education desk that may have no say or influence in key decision-making processes in the labor movement. This has resulted in special education teachers being underrepresented and defeating the global disability movement slogan, "Nothing for us without us." It is therefore comforting that the 7th National Development Plan is anchored on the leaving no one behind. In this vein, following the submission of special education teachers to establish the first ever special education union in the country, my ministry was glad to register the union, as we are convinced that their participation and self-representation is key to national development and in line with His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia's administration's call for inclusive governance. This is a great achievement, as it is one of its kind in Southern Africa, and which has come about due to the enabling environment provided by the government, aiming at leaving no one behind. My government realizes the importance of special education and the role specialist teachers play in uplifting the standards of learners with special education needs. I'm very sure that once the conditions of service for the specialized teachers are enhanced through constructive engagement with the government and other stakeholders, there will be great improvement in the service delivery, and most of the teachers who have left the country will come back, thereby lessening the artificial shortage of specialist teachers across the country. It is now my honor and privilege to officially hand over the certificate of registration to the Interim National Executive Committee of SPETUZ. How are you pronouncing it in short? SPETUZ, which is a labor movement for special education teachers. Teachers living with disabilities teachers handling children with special needs, and including other school teachers. I wish the new union and its leadership all the best in its future endeavor. Please ensure that your members are well represented and that you shall comply with the law in all union activities. Ensure that you provide checks and balances to the government in accordance with the existing labor laws. Once more, congratulations, and I wish you all the best, and I wish all your members the best so that they also participate in the governing of this country. So may the good Lord bless you, and I congratulate you for coming up with this very important surprise. Oh yeah, of course. We need the picture. It's nice that.
Please pose for a picture. Yes, please. Have we taken one already? You can never take too many, in this day and age after. There we go. Another big round of applause for the minister and indeed the Interim National Executive of SPETUS for the handover. May I invite one of the representatives to give a few words on this occasion?
Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, Labor Commissioner, or invited guests, colleagues from SPETUS Interim National Executive Committee, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is no hidden fact that we have transcended through a number of unsurmountable challenges in our quest to come up with a sustainable teacher union with mandate to protect and promote welfare and interest of special education teachers in Zambia, in accordance with the labor laws. Various stakeholders have had their misconceptions about establishing a meaningful teacher union for special education. We recognize efforts which these stakeholders have put in as far as representing special education teachers are concerned. We are very grateful to this effect. Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, Labor Commissioner, or invited guests, colleagues from SPETUS National Executive Committee, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, bearing in mind that special education is a specialized profession, we strongly feel that there was need to come up with an independent union aimed at advancing unique needs for special education teachers in the country. We are highly indebted to His Excellency President Edgar Lungu administration for hearing us to realize this wonderful dream. We wish to acknowledge that the formation of this union is not aimed at fragmenting the labor movement, but enhancing self-representation of specialist teachers. Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, Labor Commissioner, or invited guests, colleagues from SPETUS Interim Executive Committee, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, over the years, special education have been taken to be volunteers because of the covering extra mile in ensuring that children with special education needs receive maximum palliative care, besides offering education services. This calls for better understanding on the part of the labor union, the government, and other stakeholders, and equalize enumeration in tandem with the tenets of special education. This underscores the need to make special education receive its full recognition and avert the perception that special education is a religious calling, but a noble cause, hence the formation of SPETUs. Given the fact that special education teachers have to prepare individualized education program for individual learners and modify teaching and learning aids when conducting lesson, the task before us is enormous. This is thus the prevailing condition of service fall too short of the requirements of special education teachers of today. We should all throw our weight behind the visionary union which is before us. At this moment, we remain resolute to the calling of meeting the needs of all special education teachers. Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, Labor Commissioner, all invited guests, colleagues from SPETU's Interim Executive National Committee, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, we pledge to unite all special education teachers in the country in one accord. Our status quo is to uplift the welfare and protect the rights of our members, and even more important, that of children with special education needs who are highly marginalized. The green light given to us to pursue this avenue by the listening government of His Excellency President Dr. Edgar Lungu is a clear limelight aimed at realizing a clear and prosperity agenda for special education sector. To the special education sector, to the specialist teachers, here is a ball in our court. Let us once again prove even more that we deserve self-representation in key decision-making positions concerning our welfare, thereby leaving no one behind. With these few but important words, I call upon all the specialist teachers to join SPETUs, as this is your own organization which understands your plight, and its development is solemnly on your supportive participation, both financially, materially, and motivative ideas. I thank you, and long live SPETUs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, SPETUs, for those remarks. I'm sure you're very, very excited and proud on this occasion, the launch of the first ever SPETUs, Special Education Teachers Union of Zambia. And we wish you all the best as you go around and enroll teachers into the union and do what you're supposed to do. Honorable Minister, once again, thank you so very much for indeed coming to grace this occasion. On our PS, thank you, the directors, the Labor Commissioner, and all those that have come to attend this very, very important occasion. We have tea that is waiting to be consumed, tea and some sandwiches in the back there, and would like for all of us to make our way to, have a share of the refreshments that have been prepared. There might be another announcement a little later, but first, for now, it is the tea. But before we go for the tea, may I just invite you all to stand once again as we sing the national anthem to close our program. Godfrida is not here. Let me sing for her, if she can delegate. Are we ready? Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work and joy in unity. Victors in the struggle for the right, we've won freedom's fight. all one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God's good hand. Let us all her people join as one, brothers under the sun, all one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace need Zambia's sky. Like our noble eagle in its flight, Zambia, praise to thee. All one, strong and free. Praise be to God. Bless our great nation. Free men we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee. All one, strong and free. Thank you. You may take your seats as we get ready to be ushered for the refreshments. Okay, I did give you a heads up that there might be another announcement, which probably supersedes the previous one. We have refreshments, yes, the teas, the coffees, and some other juices with some sandwiches in the back. But even better, I mean, what better way to celebrate in Zambia than with food? So lunch is ready and available for all of us. So you can take your pick. If you want to have tea and sandwiches, you can go and have tea and sandwiches. Those that want to have lunch, you can make your way to the restaurant for lunch. The typical Zambians want to have both. Feel free to have both. You are more than welcome to do so. But we'll, of course, wait for our guest of honor, the Honorable Minister, to be ushered out. And once again, we thank you. Let's give a round of applause and appreciation for coming to be with us today. Thank you. So for those of you that want to start with tea before you go for lunch, please make your way there now. If you want to go straight to lunch, I believe it is in the restaurant, and there'll be people, of course, there who will show you the way. But thank you, everyone, for coming to be with us on this occasion of the launch of the National Productivity Policy. And we hope that you have found your time here worthwhile. Please get your copies of the documents, take them with you, and read them. Read them, know what is expected of the ministry. And, of course, all the policies and the charters and the reports that have been issued today. Okay, so don't forget to go for lunch in the restaurant if you can. Thank you.